We are walking in the light of God. We are walking in the light of God.
Welcome to this third episode in a series entitled Traveling with Pilgrims of Hope. I am Father Ron Will, coming to you from Precious Blood Renewal Center in Liberty, Missouri. Our mission statement at the Renewal Center says that we are a safe and sacred place offering healing and hope, renewal and reconciliation for all people. So we are committed to bringing and offering hope to all people. Recently, Pope Francis declared the year 2025 as a Jubilee year with the theme, Pilgrims of Hope. So the theme of this Jubilee year dovetails with our mission statement of bringing hope. And Pope Francis, in his letter, names various groups of people who especially need hope in order to deal with difficult and challenging situations in their lives. And he asks that the rest of us walk with them in order to gain or to maintain their hope. He says in his letter, we must fan the flame of hope that has been given to us and help everyone to gain new strength and certainty by looking to the future with an open spirit and a trusting heart and far-sighted vision. So, in this series, I am visiting with people who bring hope to others. I think that in order to be a pilgrim of hope, sometimes we must walk against the crowd or against popular opinion about how certain groups of people ought to be treated. In the United States, we face continued polarization that has permeated everything. Despite this, Pope Francis encourages believers to open the doors of our lives and hearts and share the gift of hope and love that Christ gave us. One group of people needing hope that the Pope names are the poor and the homeless. A symbol of the Holy Year is the Holy Door at the Basilica of St. Peter in Rome and many other churches around the world. Today, I am visiting with Doug Langner, whom I consider a pilgrim of hope because of his longtime ministry with the very poor and neglected in the Kansas City area. I learned of Doug's work a few years ago, and then more recently when he was interviewed on the evening news by a Kansas City TV station. Today, I think that his work which is really a ministry, has become more important than ever. His ministry at Hope Faith in Kansas City includes opening the door to the poor and the neglected in his area of influence. So thank you, Doug, for joining me today for this conversation. Would you please begin by introducing yourself to our viewing audience? Tell us what you do and why you do it.
Yeah, thanks, Father Ron. Great to be here with you and all your listeners. You're right. I mean, hope is where, of course, our organization begins its even name. We're Hope Faith, and so I'm Doug Langner. I'm the executive director at Hope Faith, and have been really blessed to be there for the past 3 years in that role. And yeah, so what we do is we provide people that are experiencing homelessness in Kansas City care, rest, and work. And those are major things to bring hope to people's lives as they're going from sometimes awful tragedies to renewed hope and moving their lives forward. So I'm really glad to be there. It's an amazing organization with a great mission.
And tell about how many people are you able to care for? You have overnight accommodations?
So we have overnight accommodations during the winter time.
Okay.
And because of the great need that we see, Hope Faith is hoping in the next few years to provide overnight shelter year round, not just in the winter months. Something we're working on now. But other than that, traditionally, Hope Faith has been a day campus for services. So where people can come for showers, for mailboxes, to have a mailbox where they can have their mail sent, a hair salon. But then we also have a work program where we show people the dignity of work, people that are ready to get back on their feet, to give back to their own families and society, and then rest. And so that, of course, happens in our shelter times, but many people come to us just tired of being a pilgrim, if you will. You mentioned that word earlier, of this Jubilee year. And I would say people experiencing homelessness are the true modern day pilgrims that we need to learn from, to see especially how, to see the hope that God brings all of us.
So when you do offer overnight shelter, how many people approximately do you have space for?
Yeah, we did. We normally have 130, but on some of those cold nights, we wouldn't turn anyone away. So we had upwards of 160. And then
Wow.
we also were what's called an access point, so that other people could come and be transported to other shelters that were partners of ours, such as women going to a women's shelter, and families and things like that. So on any given night, there are about 300 people that would come, not necessarily to stay at Hope Faith, but at our place and at our partners' places.
That's a lot of needy people.
Yeah,
300
and
people
then
in one
daytime
day.
we serve about 225 people a day.
225. And you're able to give them food, a
Yeah,
meal?
so we do breakfast and lunch every day, and then we also during the winter shelter, of course, provide those staying at it a dinner as well.
That is great. Now you named a work program. What does that include or mean?
Yeah, so we have a work program called Clean Up KC is our current iteration of that, and we hire people that have been homeless or just out of homelessness. They make $18 an hour. They work part-time for about 3 months. We help them if they still aren't housed to get them housed. Um, Many of them have recently become housed, and so we're trying to help them find a full-time job. So many people, one of the things Pope Francis talked about is prisoners are a big focus of people to encounter in this holy year. Many of the people we serve have had some type of criminal background in their history, and so
Oh,
filling that gap of work is tough for some. They're amazing workers and they just need that chance and shot. And so we've seen some great hopeful successes from that work program, while also cleaning up the east side of Kansas City in ways that haven't done in years.
that's great. So you help them. That is, I know from experience of prison ministry, that when people are released, trying to get a job, trying to get orientated to take care of themselves, become self-sufficient is a tough job. So
Yeah.
you deliberately work at that. Tell us more about how you do that and what kind of jobs are you able to connect?
Yeah. So, I mean, a big thing is in that program, speaking of hope, we're trying to understand to know that they have value. They are a child in the image of God, and their value is immense in God's eyes. So we're trying to show the great gift of their life. And so sometimes people come and they're a little bit depressed because, they've been in jail or they haven't been able to keep up with their responsibilities. They've been disconnected with family. And so some of that begins with that, showing them the dignity of work and rekindling that so that they can start doing things, to move their lives forward. Had a great encounter. I was with my wife and we were going to Crown Center over the holiday season, and a gentleman came up to me and he was in our program early on, and he said, I got to tell you, he's a custodian at Crown Center, and he was going there, and he said, this is the first year in years I've been able to buy my kids Christmas gifts. And that little
Wow.
quick story, I think, is one snippet of how hope realized in somebody's life.
That had to be a tremendous boost to his self-image.
Big time. I think there's a misnomer that people don't want to take care of themselves and the people around them. It's not, to my experience, true. What often happens is people are struggling with a lot of things, depression, the effects of poverty, sometimes generational poverty. And so that's why I think these things like the Holy Year are important for us all to remember. We can be a part of that spreading of hope. And probably in our own lives, we have a deficiency of that hope and need to realize that as well.
And you've been at this for 3 years as the director. I would imagine that seeing that many people at your door looking for help day after day for 3 years, that kind of drains your own energy, or how do you keep up energy, keep up your hope?
Yeah, I'm lucky. If on a nice day like today, most of the days I live about a 10-minute walk from Hope Faith, and I live downtown, but the change of where Hope Faith is immense, and the needs are immense because it goes to where one of the highest concentrations of homeless people are in Kansas City, and so it can be draining. But here's what kind of keeps me coming back each day. When I walk, often I journey with someone that's walking to Hope Faith. Again, these are pilgrims in the most real way. Most of them don't have a car, and they're coming for help. And so some of the conversations I've had where I've seen people at their lowest, and then sometimes when they're coming off the lowest up, you just have to know that, I think it's in Romans 5:1-5, that hope doesn't disappoint. And that's a mantra I tell myself every day, that we may not see that hope today. We might not see that hope tomorrow, maybe not even in a year in some people's case, but those planting of seeds of hope will produce fruit. And we just, have to keep at it. And that's what we keep telling our staff, because I tell them they're seed planters. You may not get to see the harvest. Sometimes those seeds won't grow, but just keep throwing seeds, And sometimes we get a story like I just shared that shows the blessings of hope.
That's a good image of seeds, like a gardener or a farmer. You plant and you don't see any result the first week, but it takes time. And with hope, I'm going to get something good out of this garden. That's going to put on my family table, or out of my field as a farmer to bring to the market. So that's good that you don't need immediate results, but you have that image of seed planters. And when you say staff, how many people are you talking about on how?
Yeah, so I kind of mentioned that during the day we have about 220 guests come in, as we call them, and we have about 17 staff that work in various roles. Then we also, during the overnight, we have another, it's probably about 10 people per shift on that overnight when we go 24 hours a day. And so many of these people are doing it because they themselves have experienced homelessness in the past. I think 73% of our staff have what's called lived experience. So they themselves at some point in their life have firsthand experienced homelessness, and now they're giving back. And it's really an amazing thing to see that they're the best people to be able to say, hey, I have truly been there. It's gonna get better.
Wow. That's amazing. 73% of your staff have experienced homelessness, and now they're giving it back. They've raised themselves up with your help, and they want to pay it forward, so to speak, making a great contribution.
I'm in awe by them because, I'm really glad to work where I do and at this point in time, because our staff, they're the epitomes of people that didn't give up on life. When you learn some of their stories, it would have been easy to crumble under so many things, and they haven't. And so, seeing them, it's my job is to make their job to be able to keep throwing those seeds. And that's what I try and do each day, but I'm in awe by them that they keep throwing, and their lives are an inspiration to so many.
Now, in order to care for an average of 220 guests a day, that takes a lot of food. Where do you, and I think you give out clothing. How do you find your funding?
Yeah, so we have about a $2 million a year budget. So we do a lot. We do a lot with a little. About half of our income comes from individuals. And then we have another about third that comes from different grants. And then we have another 2/3 that come from different city contracts that like pay for some of the salary of our cleanup KC people to help run some of that wintertime shelter. And so there's a lot of different partnerships, public and private, that happen with Hope Faith to do the work we do.
Great deal. Great. Well, I compliment you on organizing all those people to bring hope to these individuals. And obviously you've seen results. And I'm sure just seeing the light come on in some eyes that you talked about walking to work and traveling with some of these homeless yourself. Right from the beginning of your day, you start walking with hope.
Yeah, it is. It's, because I also don't want to sugarcoat it. Sometimes when you walk, you're meeting people at their lowest. If any of us could sit back and think about, we've all had a rough night's sleep. Imagine if you had that rough night's sleep on a sidewalk, under a bush, in 40-degree weather. So sometimes you have to have a lot of patience and just listening. And I'm not always the best listener. So this has also been sometimes to bring compassion, and so it's a small way of how do I passion with that person in this moment of great tragedy. And I may not have anything to say that can solve any of their problems today, but walking with, just being there to listen, I think is an immense thing. And so, sometimes we've even gone to where people have died out in the elements, and that's really hard on our community, because it is a community that happens at Hope Faith. And so whether it's through some of the depths of tragedy or the heights of seeing someone move their life forward, being a people of hope doesn't change either way.
When you listen, I think that's, part of walking with people is listening to their story. I imagine a lot of these people that come to your door, society is neglected. Nobody's really listened to how they got in the situation they are. But I hear you and your staff willing to do that, and that's just a listening, a caring presence.
Yeah. We operate on what we call a low barrier approach. And what I mean, and that hits to your thing about people that society have forgotten. The most of the people, not all, the plurality of people that come to us are African-American males in their 40s or 50s, although that's trending older and older each year. And, often there's a barrier already in place from myself, at least. I don't fit that demographic. And so that listening piece you mentioned is so key, because it can be easy to start saying, hey, go do this, go do that. Often they've already done that. And so then it's just offering more avenues to say, hey, what are your goals and how can we get you there? Because many of the people we see, other places can't help them. They might be going through mental health issues. We bring them in. They might have had an outburst at another agency and they can't bring them back. We might have a conversation, have someone go out for a day, but we know if we remove them forever, we're never going to get that possibility of transformation back. And so we take those things into account. If someone's safe to themselves and others, we try and bring them in, because we know it's necessary for them to try and get their life back. And we work some of the hardest people to work with. And that, they don't have income. And so you got to start from scratch on a lot of different things.
And I heard you say that you asked them to name what are their goals, and you're willing to work with them rather than just okay, that's your goal, go after it. But you walk with them now, helping them make connections. Some of that is with finding a job, finding just rest, a place to kind of re-energize them, sit in your facility for a few hours.
Often
get a shower.
And my first day, I was blessed that I knew I would become the executive director on December 23rd, 3 years ago. And so I went on Christmas Eve, and I just came in where our guests go in the door. And I walked with a woman that just looked tired to the world. And we had breakfast, and she was sharing just some of the deep, deep tragedies of what's happened recently in her life. And so after that breakfast, I then went on to meet staff and introduce myself and learn them. But later, I saw this woman again. And at first I had to take a double take, because I was like, is this the same person? Because I mean, she literally, she got a shower that day, and this doesn't happen every day in all these things. She got a shower that day, a fresh set of clothing, and her frown literally turned upside down, as they say, and she looked like a new person. 3 years on, I know about a year in, it took her a while, but she's been stably housed for 2 years. She drops cookies by to our staff here and there, and it's some of those things that happen there. And that it's why I also encourage anyone listening to this, if you're able, get involved. Not necessarily at Hope Faith, but find a place that speaks to you and get involved, because the story of the people we serve will enrich your own story in life. And if you can't, pray for us, give to a place like us, and make that a journey of hope in your own life.
Pope Francis said in his apostolic letter that we must fan the flame of hope that has been given to us and help everyone to gain new strength and certainty by looking to the future with an open spirit, a trusting heart, and a far-sighted vision. I think what you described as the work of Hope Faith is definitely fanning the flame of hope in people's lives. And our listeners, you may live in different places of the country, but just like Doug named, you can look around. What is in my local community that maybe I could engage in? Where am I being challenged to fan a flame of hope there?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think what I've learned is from our volunteers, they're the real heroes in this, because in the end of the day, I get to get a paycheck. The volunteers that come in through our door get nothing in return but fanning that flame of hope. And so I'm in awe by them. And that's a pretty special thing to encounter.
What you described, that woman who you met for breakfast and then met her again for a couple hours later, she looked like a new person. Just to witness that transformation occasionally, there's got to be very uplifting, obviously for you, but I'm thinking about our listeners. It's really, I don't think I'm comfortable doing that, but maybe we need to challenge you, take the risk, because there's going to be a benefit for you in the long run. You are helping people, definitely, but also you're going to be rewarded by witnessing transformation in people's lives.
Yeah. I just talked to a volunteer the other day that served at our shelter, and she said, gosh, when I first came in, there was a lot of people and it made me nervous. But after about 20 minutes, I realized I'm where I need to be. These people are speaking to me, and I'm speaking to them, and that's something I need for my own spiritual life. And so I think that's another great analogy. Again, it doesn't always need to be that I know some people aren't able to go and do these things, but maybe one night turn the news off a little earlier, because you're not getting a lot of hope from that at times, and take that time to pray for people that are experiencing homelessness or are hopeless, but have the ability to bring hope in the world. I mean, Pope Francis used a quote, and this was at Christmas in talking about this holy year. He said, if God can visit us, even when our hearts seem like a lowly manger, we can truly say hope is not dead. Hope is alive, and it embraces our lives forever. So it's something I give as an encouragement to people out there that engage, however you might engage those who are poor. That hope doesn't, we can hear that word and say, what does it really mean? but it's the ability to transform. It's an ability to encounter the other, in our case, God, Christ. And so that's just something I want your listeners to know. The work we do and the lives you share, the ones that are listening, fan that flames of hope, and we can turn one person around at a time, and that's not for naught.
I'm sitting in front of a carving of the Last Supper scene, and for us as Catholics, the Mass is a continuation of what began at the Last Supper. But at the end of every Mass, we are sent forth. The Mass is not a private, closed devotion, but we're supposed to take that experience of Jesus loving us and carry that love outside the doors of that church. So another opportunity just to be a new awareness for some of our listeners, perhaps. We are sent to those who do not have hope and to walk with them. And we can be ambassadors of hope. Doug, is there anything else that you'd like to make sure that our viewers know before we draw to a close?
Just don't let opportunities that are before you now go. You know, as Americans, it's so easy to let the busyness of our days and lives make us miss moments of hope, of graces, if you will. And, you know, again, to each one of those people, it's going to look a little bit differently. But learn something more about what the word hope means and how you can bring hope to other people that you encounter in your lives. Maybe it's starting with your family. Sometimes we neglect those closest to us, but then do that sent part that you talked about after Mass, to go out and find that way we can be a part of the world. If you're at a stage in life that's not possible, that's okay. There are other ways to get involved that are no less eternal than going somewhere and showing up.
Very good. Well, thank you, Doug, for taking time from your busy work and taking time to share with us today about what this Hope Faith facility is all about. And thank you personally for being a pilgrim of hope, for inspiring me and inspiring our listening audience today. And just to repeat, for our listeners, what can you learn from Doug that you can apply to yourself? Pope Francis reminds us in his letter of the remarkable, resilient power of hope. It's not something outside of us, he says, but it hides within our life. It is something we carry in us, and it's up to us to pray to have it revealed so that we can share it with others. This small flame can become a vibrant blaze if we permit ourselves to trust in how God is working in each of us. Have you ever considered that, listeners, that you carry the seeds of hope within your heart? Please join me again next month as we continue this series and as we travel with another Pilgrim of Hope. In the meantime, may God bless you abundantly.
We are walking, we are walking, we are